G'day everyone, thanks for joining me in this video. We are going to be covering PowerToys and fancy zones on multiple screens. This is probably like my third go at recording this video, so hopefully this one turns out a little bit quicker, more concise, and helps you out a little bit easier than my previous attempts. So let's dive right into it. So this is my main monitor that you're looking at right at the moment. I'll give you some context before we jump into what is PowerToys and fancy zones. This is my current monitor setup. So on the left-hand screen here, the very one to the far left is my laptop. This is known as my second monitor. Then I've got my main monitor and my third monitor to the far right, which is actually the sizes of what you see here aren't actually proportional to the sizes of the screens. My third monitor is 27 inches, my main monitor is 24 inches, and my second monitor, my laptop, is 11 inches. So you kind of see the varying ranges there in sizes, but main monitor, of course, is my center. And yeah, so essentially this video is just going to cover Power Toys, and we'll dive straight into bringing up Power Toys here. So Power Toys, and in particular, we're going to be looking at fancy zones. Now, it's not going to be comprehensive in terms of like how to use fancy zones, stuff like that. I'll give you some little kind of pointers of what I found out from my experience of using fancy zones. And one thing that a lot of people in the comments are having trouble with, which is probably why you come to this video, is how can you use fancy zones on multiple screens? There's a bit of a trick to it, and I came across it simply just by reading a comment because I couldn't get fancy zones to work with the layout on another screen, like one of my third or second screens, as you're probably having the same issue as well. So we're going to try and get to that point as quick as possible. So anyway, fancy zones, if you're on this video, you probably already have it installed through PowerToys, and that's great. So being the main monitor, we're going to open up fancy zones, the settings directly on here. Now to get into fancy zone settings, you press the Windows key and then the tilde symbol. And if you don't know what the tilde symbol is, let me bring that up here. It is that little squiggly thing in between or underneath the escape key on your keyboard and to the left of the number one. So this is the little tilde. So if you press the Windows key, hold it down, hold down and press at the same time the tilde button, you'll get the settings dialog box for fancy zones, and this is fancy zones here. Now I'm using a custom one that I've already set up, which is called GTD. I have a YouTube one as well for my portrait display, which I'll show in a second. That's my third screen. Hopefully we should be able to show that nicely within OBS. We'll give it a crack and see how it is while I rotate it at the same time. And essentially you go in here, you set up your layouts. Maybe I want to have it as a simple two screen priority grid setup. As you can see here, I can go ahead and apply that. Now before I do that, I just want to show you one little thing before continuing on. If I went to edit selected, if you haven't noticed this already, if you just add in some like dividers and stuff like that, which is really easy and cool. I have found this, I don't like reading documentation, but I was like, I've clicked all these things, how do I get them off? And so you're kind of frantically trying to click and move them around. So the easiest way to get rid of them is just select it. And you get the merge zones. So that's just like literally dragging and selecting. And then you go merge zones that you can merge them all in, which is pretty sweet. And we just cancel that here. Go back to priority zones and apply the priority grid fancy zone layout. And that's been applied to my main monitor. So if I bring up just a notepad, and if I hold down the shift key, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, hold down the shift key and then click on left click and drag, I get number one and number two zones. And I can just drop that in there by letting go on my left click on my cursor on my mouse, and I can drag it across as well. And same thing. So I'm just holding down the shift key, clicking on the top of the bar to drag it, and then releasing it, and you can see it snaps into place, which is cool. And you can add multiple windows as you please into there. Now, the other way you can do it is if you hold down you click to drag, and then you hold down the right key on your mouse as well, or opposites if you're a left-hander, and then you can drop it in there by releasing the normal click button that you've got set on your mouse, and it snaps in there. I find that a little bit difficult. It's kind of like if you were to tap your head or rub your head and tap your belly kind of situation. It's just, I don't know, doesn't seem natural, and it's kind of sometimes confusing on the fly. But once you get the hang of it, it'll be really quick. I kind of like the shift key. I've got a whole bunch of hotkeys anyway, so my one hand's usually on the mouse, one's on the keyboard, as most people tend to work for better productivity. So that's our setup for the first monitor, the main monitor here. So now if I wanted to go to my second display, so let's switch this over here to my third display. I'm going to now repeat the same process. So I'm going to press the Windows key, the tilde button, and now we get the settings for my layout for Fancy Zones on my third monitor. Now, a problem that some people think, or what some people have been led to believe, or I don't know where it's come from, it maybe it's a bug, I'm not too sure at this point, I haven't looked into it, but if you just drag this over to the other screen, if I just bring that across, where are we? You see both my screens. If I drag from the settings window, this is still the settings from the third screen. So just be aware of that if you change things in here, you're not actually changing it on the screen it's sitting on. So don't think that by dragging over here, now I want my main monitor had to have rows. Well, no, technically your third monitor, of course, is going to be rows. So just be aware of that. So I'm going to go priority grid 3, and I can apply that. And now if we get the good old traditional notepad, drag that across. Let me bring up the third display here, hold down shift, and I can just drag that straight into kind of those zones as well, as I see fit, which is exactly what we're after here. And if we were to just go back into, where are we? Bring up everything else. And if we just check on the main monitor, if we hold down the shift key, we're getting number 1, getting number 2 in the main monitor areas. And you can see, like, if I'm dragging across, you're going to see those fancy zones nicely are set as they need to be per each monitor. So that's how you set up fancy zones between different displays. Now I can do it on my third display as well, but I'm running OBS on there at the moment to record this to make life a little bit easier. One thing that I want to test out is my monitor over here. So this monitor, my third display, this is actually on an arm. And in one of my previous videos that I was trying to record this on, just to kind of give you some context, give everyone out there some context, I was wearing a webcam on my head. So if you think that is useful, comment below if you've gone to that extreme to kind of show a point of perspective. Let me know. But in this case, I decided not to go with that video. It was a pretty nasty looking quality. I was recording it not in a pretty average method. So anyway, I'm just going to rotate my screen into portrait mode here, and then I'm going to attempt come back here onto my main screen. I actually have a shortcut key that rotates that monitor for me. If you're keen to know what that looks like, let me know. I think I'm going to need to change some settings here for a second. Sweet. So now that's in portrait mode, so that looks nice. So you guys can see that here alongside my main monitor. And yeah, the great thing with I guess with your purpose for wanting to maybe use fancy zones like mine was to take use of a 27-inch monitor essentially, and amongst other monitors, and use it to a better method, because of course sometimes running if you've got where are we? Let's bring something over here, some Sublime text, for instance, just for example, bring that across. Like, that's sweet, that works out really well. You can read that kind of stuff. But where it can be really useful is like if I press my Windows key, the tilde symbol on that third monitor, the layout comes up and I can just go straight into YouTube code. The really interesting thing is, see how it's kind of like automatically jumped into that for me, because if I go apply, it's Fancy Zones is kind of knows that, or PowerToys, I'm pretty sure it's remembering. We can test this out quickly. If I drag that up into, where are we? Into there, come back here, OBS. And I can have like, I don't know, you probably wouldn't have your code up there. That's silly. You'd have the code down here, maybe a YouTube video up the top saying, or Spotify, whatever you want. Maybe some help information, other bits and other stuff that you might be working with, up there. But that is sweet. So let's just switch this back out from portrait mode. I'm keen, so just keep note that currently, I know we're at 10 minutes, this video is getting a bit long, but if I went to the settings, we're in YouTube encode portrait mode. I'm pretty sure it remembers and knows that that is what that should be when I'm in that mode. So if I go back to landscape mode for that monitor, and what I'm about to do is just come back over here to main and third, and let's just press the Windows key and the tilde button, and sweet. How cool is that? That remembers that monitor in landscape mode, non-portrait mode, needs to be priority and grid. So I don't need to keep on going back and switching between there. I can simply just come here onto where are we? Wrong one. Yeah, go away. Got a block instant edge. Block that thing. Coming into the main monitor, I've got a little hotkey here, a little shortcut key. If you want to know how to, if you want to grab this, hit me up in the comment section. I might make a video about it. But essentially, I just click this and it rotates my third monitor, which will bring it up in that one there. And let me just rotate my screen. Let's have a look. Get out of that. Now is that right? Yep, sweet, that is. So you drag that straight in. So it is remembering it. So the power of PowerToys and Fancy Zones is going to remember your portrait, landscape orientation of your screens, and the kind of the split up that you may have set up as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been useful. This would have been really useful to me when I started using Fancy Zones. Just remember, if you're setting Fancy Zones for that monitor, don't go dragging this to the other monitor or monitors and changing it. So it's going to change it for the one that you've opened it on. That's my experience. I'm not sure if it's a bug or if it's going to be fixed or what the go is. I actually don't mind it. I think it's fine. I just press the Windows key and the tilde on the active clicked on screen that I wish to change. So when I mean active, I've got an active window, or I've clicked on that desktop, or I've clicked on this desktop here, and I can open up the settings and change it as well. Can you open up two of them? No, you cannot. There you go. Hope that answers all your questions. Comment below. Like, dislike, whatever you want to do. Do not mind. Love the feedback. Thanks for watching.